Hi.
Good morning, everybody. Frida here together with Rianne.
Good
If you've
morning.
if you've joined us, thank you for to all our Muslim friends. Ramadan, I guess Do I say Happy Ramadan? But I guess it's just the season
Yes.
now for Ramadan. So if you're not going anywhere because you're not eating, right? I hope you've joined us here today. Uh, of course, this is Causeway Conversations, bridging the sustainability gap
Yes.
out here in Malaysia and Rianne out in Singapore. How have you
Yes.
been?
I'm very good. And I hear it's raining over there in Malaysia, which is a pretty good
It,
theme for World Water Day.
World Water. So it was part of the plan, part of my
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
I said it's World Water Day. I need ambience. I need the right kind of mood, and
Yeah.
so it rained, right? But it's
Maybe by the end of our session today, maybe it will bless us with the rain here in Singapore.
uh, coming soon,
Yeah.
right?
Send it my
And
way.
so, so yes, it is World Water Day.
Yes. So, World Water Day actually fell on March 22nd. And Frida, did you know that around 2 billion people, most of them in developing countries, actually lack access to a safely managed supply of drinking water at home? Well, 771 million people lack even a basic drinking water service, excuse me, and nearly one third of all primary schools have inadequate drinking water facilities.
It's quite startling, right, when you
Really
think
is.
about it. Yeah, right. So time spent fetching water costs women and children productive time they could be using for education, livelihood activities, or other responsibilities. So today we have with us Winnie Ko, head of resource development, World Vision Malaysia. So let's bring her on. Yay. Good morning.
Good
Good morning.
morning.
Thank you for being with us. And of course, I know World Vision reaches one new person with clean water every 10 seconds. So when you think about that, that's quite astounding.
Amazing.
But it seems like, we're always having to do this work, right? So thanks, Winnie. And just open, full disclosure, I am, an advocate for water, for WASH, together with World Vision Malaysia. So good to have you. Every year we talk about this, but this is a conversation that should be had almost every day. We earlier on, Winnie, we shared some stats, but perhaps you could, share more figures about the situation and the challenges, faced by vulnerable communities globally.
Sure. And good morning. Good morning, Frida. Good morning, Rian. Thanks
Good
for
morning.
having me and World Vision on your program today. So, and just by way of background, this is a topic very, very close to World Vision's hearts, and it's also very dear to Frida's hearts. And that's why she's our World Vision WASH advocate, which is water, sanitation, and hygiene. So, and also just for our listeners, who are we? What do we do? So, World Vision is a child focused global humanitarian organization. We work across 100 countries and we've impacted 100 million lives so far. Our work generally centers on community development, advocacy, as well as emergency relief. So, and what we do is drive sustainable change. So, instead of giving man a fish, we teach man to fish. And amongst this is the whole topic that we're talking about today, which is WASH. So, to Frida's question, indeed, the stats are very alarming and also perplexing because the world we live in today looks like water is not a problem.
Mm.
But do we know it that across the world it is? And foundationally, more than 100 children under 5 actually die from diarrhea caused by contaminated water, poor
Mm.
sanitation, and also unsafe hygiene practices. 1 in 10 people on the planet still have no access to clean water, and 122 million people is still using surface water as source instead of pipe. So this
Wow.
global water crisis actually disproportionately impacts women and girls as well. I'll talk a bit more about this later, but overall, there are so many challenges faced by vulnerable communities. And allow me to share a story. Well, one of my colleagues visited one of our area programs in Cambodia. So, and essentially before we started work, one thing we realized that basic awareness of water is not there. So to use a water pun is very shallow. So, and why? Because when you're growing up, all you know about water is that it's murky and it's brown color and it's collected from the rivers. And that's something that has been a tradition that's passed down the generations. So, and as a result, the problem can be seen in the people's eyes. It looked yellow and jaundice, and that's been due to the contaminated water that they've been drinking, they've been using to cook and clean. And if left untreated, it can lead to severe health issues. So a lot can still be done. It is a simple
Right.
matter of providing access to clean water, sanitation, and hygienic practices. So thank you for the opportunity to share because there's so much more that we need to do.
Right. Right.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's really fascinating the work that you do. And of course, World Vision focuses on ensuring clean water, sanitation, and hygiene, or WASH, as you explained. But why sanitation and hygiene too? I mean, why is clean water alone not enough?
Great question. So this is actually aligned to UN SDG 6. So this is the basic human right to safe drinking water and sanitation for all. So clean water, sanitation, and hygiene is all interrelated. So like the story shared from Cambodia, so lack of clean water can lead to diarrhea, leading to open defecation, leading to
Mm,
feces going into the river, and
mm,
drinking the water collected from the river. So, and the cycle keeps continuing. So, both humans and animals would face the risk of drinking the contaminated river water. So, and we cannot break the cycle of poverty if it is one without the other. Even basic hand washing is important, like COVID.
Right.
What it has really taught us is the importance of hand washing, the importance of good hygiene and washing our hands to prevent
mm,
its spread. So, other diseases like cholera, salmonella, all these can be transmitted through dirty water and
mm.
have a risk of contamination. So, an open defecation itself brings a host of diseases.
Right.
Absolutely.
When I hear this, right, we take it for granted out here in Malaysia and Singapore, right? And such a simple things like that, we forget that this is still an issue in
Yes.
so many communities. For
Yeah.
those who have just joined us, if you have any questions for Winnie, please put that in the chat, and we'll try to address them. Winnie has all the answers. I'm just kidding. Right. Okay. What communities does a World Vision work with globally?
We work with the most vulnerable communities across the world, and we work across different regions, different countries in implementing our WASH programs. So, for example, our regions would be like in Asia Pacific, Middle East, Latin America, East Africa, South Africa, West Africa, and within Asia, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Indonesia, and so on. Yeah. So, in
Mm.
fact, for us, we go to where the problems are the greatest.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's so close on our doorstep, which is the thing. Like, we Frida mentioned, we just take for granted that we can just have a cup of clean water, and it's
Yep.
sort of not, I
Yeah.
guess, maybe out of sight, out of mind, but it is so close by. But I mean, obviously, you've addressed some of the issues, but I would really love to hear more some of the milestones which World Vision have, achieved.
Yeah. So for us, in terms of global reach in 2022, in terms of people who have gained access to clean water, we have reached 3 million. In terms of
Wow.
people who have gained access to improved sanitation, 2.7 million. In terms of people who have gained access to hand washing services, 3.3 million. And this sounds significant. Against the world's population who's facing scarcity of clean water, this is there's still so much that has to be done.
Mm,
And another
Right.
pun that it is a drop in a big, big ocean.
Okay, you got
absolutely.
a lot of puns for us today, and when you think the numbers are good, but there's still so
No,
much work, and
yes.
this is the saddest thing, right? There is no shortage of water, but there is a shortage of clean water and access to clean water, and how the implications of all this, right? Now, so there are obviously many benefits, right, to having access to clean water. What are the Sometimes when we say, okay, we have clean water, what are the implications to the economic situation for families that people don't realize when you have
Mm,
access to clean water?
mm. Yeah, that's also a great question. Farming accounts for actually nearly 70% of our global water usage, and water fuels irrigation systems, which is key to small farming communities, which is where families rely on for their gardens to feed their families. So, and irrigation systems are becoming even more crucial as there's changing climate conditions that
Yeah.
are bringing unpredictable rains. Our Chief Field Operations Officer, Dr. Jean-Baptiste Kamate, actually traveled around the world overseeing the quality of our field programs. And he has seen how impactful it is when World Vision empowers communities with seeds, with soil, with tools, and the proper knowledge in agriculture. But without water, nothing can grow. So, at the
Mm.
basic level, water enables the production of food. And World Vision is actually, interestingly, this week is the UN 2023 Water Conference, which is happening between 22nd to 23rd March. So World Vision is part of the panel, and it is the first UN conference focused on water since 1977.
Wow.
Huh.
So this
Okay.
conference welcomes the UN member states, civil society, other global watch stakeholders because it takes a world to make a difference. So and this group is dedicated to accelerating actions to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 6 in terms of availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all.
It's a
Mm.
small world after all.
It
Okay.
Yeah,
is.
and that's the thing. I think the real focus on, especially all the UN Sustainable Development Goals, is the highlight is, or the key is collaboration. So it's really great
Yes.
to hear that
Mm.
World Vision is collaborating and actually putting, your expertise at the forefront of all these issues. Yeah.
SDG 17.
Yeah,
Yes, partnership.
exactly, correct. Um, okay, so I'd love to ask you a bit more about how does wash actually impact a child's nourishment and healthy families as well.
Mm. Yes, indeed. And World Vision being a child focused organization, this is something actually very, very, very deep in terms of
Mm,
what we do and how. So, hunger isn't just caused by lack of food. Your body might go hungry even with food. Yeah.
Right.
What do I mean by that? More than 60% of human body is water. And this is even higher among children. And the first 1,000 days of life are critical to children's health, and water, sanitation, and hygiene is vital part of this. So we integrate our work with the maternal, newborn, and child health, nutrition, and early childhood development, and it is far more effective than addressing any single areas in isolation. So safe water, sanitation, hygiene helps kids grow taller, smarter, and
Right.
stronger. They get more
mm,
nutrition from the food they eat because they're not sick. And again, in a recent article by Dr. Jean-Baptiste Camate, he shared about how a consistent lack of clean water can affect the nutritional status of the body.
mm,
Every day, yeah, many children around the globe go to bed thirsty and hungry because they do not have clean water. Yeah, children
mm,
need to be more than fed; they need to be nourished. And for families without access to clean water, their children are likely to fall sick. And if a child's body is wrestling with an illness or infection, it cannot be properly nourished because the body needs extra calories to fight it. Diarrhea, in
mm,
particular, prevents the full absorption of nutrients needed to fuel a children's growth.
Right.
And according to WHO, there are more than 1.7 billion cases of childhood diarrheal disease every year. And in children under 5 years old, diarrhea is a leading cause of malnutrition, and this is very horrifying, the second leading cause of death.
Right.
So
wow.
children deserve more than this reality. They're dying from preventable diseases and or living with substandard quality of life where they are not properly nourished. So we need to work
Mm.
towards a more sustainable future so that children can not only survive but thrive with a healthy body and mind.
Absolutely, yes. And it's sorry, it's just one of those things which you, again, I just can't reiterate enough
Mm,
how you
Right.
just don't think about it, because even I went traveling last
mm,
year and just didn't even think, brushing my teeth with water. And again, that wasn't maybe as clean as I was used to in Singapore or Malaysia. And I also got sick, just, not, of course, not
mm.
in a terrible way, but you just forget that how simple things like just brushing your teeth with tap water can be so different in different countries.
And people don't realize that you can actually die from diarrhea.
Yeah.
Right,
Indeed.
and it's something that's so easily preventable. Now I
Mm,
want to, like one of the reasons I've been involved with World Vision even from over 20 plus years is actually I always believe in education, right? And
Mm,
education is the I feel is where everybody gets a fair, fair play at game at life, right? And so, but when you look at it, it's not so simple as just giving education, right? We talk about embrace equity when not everybody has any equal access to education.
mm,
So how does clean water actually connect back to education and menstrual hygiene?
mm. Yeah, so it's very critical in terms of making sure that education at schools is not restricted to book knowledge. It also involves life practices like sanitation and proper hygiene. So, and imagine you're a girl at school. You may face awkwardness, embarrassment if there's no access to clean water and menstrual hygiene during that time of the month.
Mm.
And when girls are unable to manage menstrual hygiene, it affects their education, their health, and also their overall well being. In Ethiopia, as an example, on average, 51% of girls miss 4 school days a month because of periods. And by providing opportunity and knowledge and resources, we harness one of the biggest opportunity to improve education and equality for girls.
Right.
So, menstrual hygiene is vital to empowering girls and the well-being of women and girls worldwide. It's about ensuring women and girls live in an environment that values and supports their ability to manage menstruation with dignity. So, and
Mm.
globally, at least 500 million women and girls lack proper access to menstrual hygiene facilities.
500 million?
Million
That's
across the world.
shocking.
Yes, and more than one third of schools lack single sex toilets. So imagine that,
Wow.
right? So access to sanitation and latrine facilities in schools make it safe physically and mentally for girls. It would result in also good attendance. Children will not drop out due to risk of marginalization or harassment. Children can attend in school, can excel in school. They don't have to walk long distances to get water. They have more time to attend school and more energy to learn. And especially important for girls who most often than not is the one collecting water for their family.
Mm.
Mm. So, I mean, thank you so much for sharing that because those are some shocking statistics, which I don't think
Yes.
is maybe that widely known. But another thing, unfortunately, that affects girls is safety. Could you just elaborate a bit more about that?
Certainly. Yes, that's a very, very good point in terms of safety because we never think of it as an issue. But in poorer communities, children and, as we heard, girls usually collect water for their
Mm.
families.
Yeah.
And on average, you have to walk 6 kilometers, and along the way, there's the risk of predators, whether humans or animals, or even sometimes falling into rivers or wells during the water collection.
Gosh.
So when they have no proper toilets, they also lose dignity. They are vulnerable to attacks in open. And also when imagine you have to defecate in the open or in
Mm.
poorly constructed facility, you're exposed to many risks in terms of
Mm.
health and safety. So a lack of private facilities exposes women and children to risk of violence and abuse. And they may drop out of school, like we said, as their time is collecting water instead of studying, or end up marrying young or becoming a child laborer. So all this
Mm.
doesn't augur well for girls, for children, and their safety.
Right.
Yeah. Gosh.
SDG 5, gender equality, right? I mean, see, it all
Yes,
connects, because if
yes,
you
it all
don't have that,
connects.
how can you talk about gender equality when
Yeah.
all these things are in your way, right? If any
Absolutely.
questions for Winnie, again, do put that in the chat and we'll address that. Now, I want to come back closer, and this is something I'm kind of surprised is still happening in Malaysia, right? But tell us about the work that you do in Sabah, here, and how we still have this issue in Malaysia.
So in Malaysia, we actually have community development programs in Mukim Tulit, which is in Keningau district, and Mukim Tatlaan in Nabawan district. And initially, when we were there, it was a hygiene concern was a hygiene. Rather, let me say this: hygiene practice was a concern in the early days when we started the program. What did we find? Caregivers and children lack awareness and knowledge on sanitation, and basically, there's minimum access to information on personal hygiene. These result in children communities being more vulnerable to common childhood illnesses like fever, respiratory infections, and diarrhea. So, our program goal is to improve wash practices, and the key interventions or key programs included a combination of software, like promoting hygiene behavior, and also hardware, which is managing water source access. So, and this promoted healthy behavior. So, in order to do that, we have workshops, we have building awareness activities, as well as support to construct and maintain wash facilities. So, one of the campaigns that we ran to increase awareness was Jom Cuci Tangan dengan Sabun. Yeah.
Mm.
So, yes, and it does sound as fun as it is. So, the session was conducted in school in partnership with Klinik Kesihatan from number one district. So, we also had awareness activity on how do you hand wash with soap, how do you then also wash your hair to prevent lice, and also prevention of diseases, yeah, through clean water, through boiling, proper storage, making sure that it's away from insects and debris, and so on. So, on that, how do we then also drive sustainability? So we organize water committees among the community members. We have periodic maintenance of the water catchment pond. We conducted repair and replacement to ensure consistent water in the piping system. And during the pandemic years, households were provided with hygiene kits. And we also emphasize the importance of personal hygiene by distributing information leaflets to schools, to communities, and also educating children, teaching them how to keep themselves clean and safe.
Wow, that's fantastic to hear and very uplifting to hear
Yes.
all the great work that you're doing. But what I want to know now is how do people like me in the public actually help World Vision's initiatives? How can we support them?
Oh, yes. So thanks for asking. We need all the help we can get. So, and couple of things. I think at the core of the work we do is really child sponsorship. Child
Right.
sponsorship is foundational to what we are able to achieve, whether it's wash, whether it's education, whether it's livelihood, and so on. And in 2020 alone, yeah, we reached more than 500,000 people in our sponsorship programs with clean and safe water. So, what are the 6 ways that child sponsorship can actually change a kid's life, right? So, number one, through child sponsorship, we make sure that people hear about the importance of hand washing and hygiene.
Mm.
And also, number two, child sponsorship helps communities bring clean water to schools to by building water pumps, by drilling, by installing taps and also toilets. Three, when child sponsors provide clean water to communities, they free women and girls from a lifetime of collecting water, gender equality. Number four, child sponsorship also empowers communities with reliable access to water so that families can grow more and better crops and keep healthy livestock. Five, and also child sponsorship help families adapt, building knowledge and learning new ways of doing things that reduce their vulnerability to whether it's climate shocks or more sustainably manage and protect the natural resources around them. And finally, child sponsorship provides a whole community with clean water for generations. Because in the work that we do, World Vision would like to ensure that it is about sustainable, transformational change.
Right. So, and I guess like, what are the challenges that you face? Is it funds? I guess would that be
Yes.
definitely one
Yeah.
of them?
So a lot of what we do is about getting funding, and child sponsorship is really one way where you could contribute monthly, 65 ringgit for a child within Asia or 80 ringgit for a child across outside of Asia. But essentially, it goes to the communities so that we can do the work that we have mentioned. And essentially, it's also a journey with a child. So what child sponsorship does is you know the child and you journey with the child for 10 years or more,
Oh,
watching the
wow.
child grow up. Every
Mm.
year, you will receive an annual progress report, like how we receive report cards for our children.
Yeah.
And along the way, you can actually write letters to your child, the child writes back. You can even meet your child. You can go visit when we organize sponsors visits, or like in sometimes during the pandemic years, we also have Zoom sponsors
Mm.
meetings. And I've met my sponsored child in Congo. It was a joy. And it's such a gift to know that a child is somewhere and you have that personal connection. It is an unbeatable feeling. So,
Right.
and it is so much about that real child and real change and real growth.
Right. And
Absolutely.
I've seen this video of a girl in Myanmar, right? That I've seen. So they stopped at 18, right? So basically, the sponsorship with the work ends at 18. So you see this little girl, and then she's finally going to college or further education at 18. So you see that, and you know that you made an impact,
Yeah,
right, to someone
yeah,
else's life
yeah.
for what would
Absolutely.
be a fancy cup of coffee, right? Three fancy cups of
Exactly.
coffee. That's the
Yeah.
price. That's the price of someone's
Yeah, yeah. It's
life.
220 a day if I calculate it.
Okay,
It's
ringgit,
only
ringgit,
220
ringgit.
ringgit.
which is
80
which
cents.
which is
See?
which is air for Singaporeans.
Exactly. Divided by three. I'm not going to do the math because that's not.
Three
I'm not
point
good for my.
six.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. I divided
Gosh.
by three, not 3.6.
No, you're
Yeah.
being kind.
3.3.
Like I
My
said,
goodness.
air.
Exactly. And yeah, even less than, cup of
Ugh,
coffee here. So,
right.
yeah. But I mean, this year's World Water Day, actually, the global campaign focused on Be the Change, which encourages people to take action in their lives to change how they use, consume, and manage water. And, it is a commodity that is decreasing if we don't regulate it in the correct way. So do you, Winnie, have any tips on how people like us can actually manage water?
Yeah, yes, indeed. So it all starts with raising awareness.
Hmm.
Today is a good day when we can sit
Yes.
down and have a conversation with the rain outside, reminding us of the importance of water. So we start by raising awareness, and we start with children at home, children around us, because they can be agents of change.
Mm.
So they can also be inspiring the next generation. We want to empower our children with practical tips. How do you keep your hands clean, good hand washing practices? How do you understand water and scarcity of it in vulnerable communities? And also, like Journey with a Sponsored Child, they can actually observe through the eyes of the child what is it like to not have clean water, and how
Yeah.
can then they be advocates. So I think all this is very empowering in terms of being the change, which is the theme for this year. And I also wanted to bring up something other than child sponsorship. What we have is a catalog, an annual catalog that is called Gifts of Hope. And it is exactly that. So you can give the gift of hope of clean water, because in the catalog, you can actually select a toilet. You can actually fund the building of a toilet in a community. You
Right.
can also choose to have uh, hand washing basins, because we are also providing that. So, all this in terms of our focus is really bringing it all together about providing clean water, dignified sanitation, and effective hygiene practices to communities. Because one thing we remember, water is life. And using a water analogy again, let us create that ripple effect and wash the world together. So
Very nice.
I have to pitch to for my website, go to worldvision.com.my. You will find out all there is to know about water,
And
child
in
sponsorship.
this case, we're allowed to have a tsunami effect.
Yeah.
In
Yes.
this case, right? You need and
Absolutely.
water pun there again.
Well done.
Um, thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. Been very eye-opening for both of us for sure. And when I hear
Absolutely.
this again, I'm just reminded of how fortunate we are.
Right.
But right where we are fortunate, we can actually make a difference, right? And be the change for others as well. Because I think the pandemic has shown that no one lives in isolation, right? I mean, a cough, someone literally when someone sneezes there, we could get the cold
Yeah.
here, right? So
Mm,
so something like this would have an impact,
yeah. Around the
back
world.
around the world for all of us. Yeah. So
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much, Winnie. It's been really enlightening to hear more about the work that you're doing. And as Frida said, feeling very grateful for what we have here and how we can help other communities in Malaysia and around the world.
right. Of
Thank
course, we've
you.
been speaking to Winnie Ko from World Vision. We'll be back again next month for another
Yep.
topic. We haven't decided yet what is the but
Yep.
or the date, but it'll be a Saturday morning at 11.
Of course,
Causeway
as always.
Conversations,
Yes.
bridging the sustainability gap. Frida Liu together with.
Rianne Lovell Boland, thank you so much for watching and being with us.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Bye.